Maya Rodriguez stared at her coffee mug, which proudly declared World's Okayest Maintenance Worker in faded letters. The irony wasn't lost on her that in a galaxy of supposedly superior civilizations, she was the only one who knew how to keep a toilet from backing up into the ventilation system. Chief Engineer Rodriguez. The voice belonged to Lord Shimmerbottom, a crystalline vortac whose body literally sparkled like a disco ball having an identity crisis. The beverage synthesizer in my suite is producing liquid that tastes like sadness. Maya looked up from her diagnostic pad where she was tracking 17 different system failures. Have you tried turning it off and on again? I am a diplomatic envoy of the Vortac Crystalline Republic. I do not perform menial tasks. Of course he didn't. Maya sighed and added fix Lord Glitter's sad juice machine to her already impossible-to-do list. The luxury cruise ship Stellar Paradise was supposed to be the crown jewel of interspecies tourism, but Maya was pretty sure it was held together by duct tape, spite, and her personal refusal to let physics have its way. Oh, darling Maya. Lady Glupina oozed over, her gelatinous blobarian form jiggling with each step. My massage chair has developed a most dreadful squeak. It's disrupting my meditation on the meaninglessness of existence. That's just the hydraulics settling, Maya said without looking up. Perfectly normal. Normal? Normal? Lady Glupina's translucent body turned a distressing shade of purple. I paid 17,000 credits for this voyage specifically to avoid anything normal. Before Maya could explain that rich people problems weren't actually engineering emergencies, Executive Click-Clack skittered over on his 6 insectoid legs. His mandibles clacked in what Maya had learned was either excitement or homicidal rage. Human Maya. Human Maya. The business entrepreneur is creating documents in Comic Sans font. This is clearly sabotage by my corporate rivals. Maya finally looked up from her pad. Or maybe, and hear me out here, someone changed the default settings. All 3 aliens stared at her, as if she'd just suggested they solve their problems with interpretive dance. Maya drained her coffee and stood up. All right, let me guess, you want me to fix everything while you go hide in your cabins and complain about how primitive humans are? Well, Lord Shimmerbottom sniffed when you put it like that. It sounds unreasonable. That's because it is unreasonable. Maya was halfway to Lord Glitter's suite when every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. The lights flickered from normal white to emergency red, which really brought out the disco ball effect of Lord Shimmerbottom's panic. What's happening? Lady Glupina wobbled frantically. Is this part of the authentic space experience? Maya's diagnostic pad lit up like a Christmas tree of doom. Navigation offline. Communication array compromised. Main engine stuttering like her ex-boyfriend, trying to explain why he'd maxed out her credit card. Well, Maya said, studying the cascade of system failures, this is either the worst technical malfunction in galactic history, or we've been boarded by space pirates. Executive Click-Clack's mandibles clacked in terror. Space pirates? But the brochure said this was a safe route. The brochure also said the food would be edible, and the entertainment would be tasteful, Maya pointed out. Marketing departments lie. She pulled up the ship's external cameras and immediately regretted it. 3 sleek black vessels had latched onto their hull like mechanical parasites, and figures in environmental suits were cutting through the airlock doors. Okay, new plan, Maya announced. Everyone panic quietly while I figure out how to not die. Maya had seen exactly 2 space pirate raids in her career, and both times the pirates had been surprisingly professional. They'd take some cargo, maybe rough up a few passengers for show, then disappear into hyperspace with minimal fuss. These pirates, however, seemed to have skipped the professional piracy 101 course. Attention, pathetic life forms. The lead pirate's voice crackled through the ship's communication system. We are the Crimson Void Brotherhood, and we're here to steal your stuff and probably murder you all. Maya paused in her frantic attempts to restore ship defenses. Did he just admit to planning murder over an open channel? That's either really stupid or really confident. We're all going to die. Lady Glupina had turned a fetching shade of transparent with fear. I haven't even finished my memoirs. Nobody wants to read about your spa treatments, Executive Click-Clack chittered. We need to surrender immediately. Lord Shimmerbottom was frantically polishing himself, which Maya had learned was how Vortak dealt with stress. Perhaps if we explain that I'm a diplomatic envoy, they'll show mercy. Sure, Maya said, still working on her pad. I'm sure space pirates are known for respecting diplomatic immunity. That's when the screaming started. But it wasn't coming from the passengers. It was coming from the pirates. Maya pulled up the external feeds again and watched in fascination as something massive and tentacled emerged from what looked like a tier in space itself. The thing was bigger than the cruise ship, bigger than the pirate vessels, possibly bigger than the moon they'd passed yesterday. Oh, Maya said thoughtfully. That explains the confident stupidity. They weren't here to rob us. They were using us as bait. The creature had approximately 30 tentacles, each one covered in what looked like crystalline spikes. Its head was roughly the size of a city block, dominated by a single eye that glowed with the kind of malevolent intelligence that suggested it had opinions about the moral failings of organic life. What is that thing? Lord Shimmerbottom whispered. Maya consulted her pad's database. According to this, it's a Void Kraken, hyperspace predator. Extremely dangerous. Usually hibernates between dimensions. She paused. Also apparently extinct for the last 1,000 years. Extinct? Lady Glupina's voice reached frequencies that probably violated several noise ordinances. Well, mostly extinct, Maya corrected, obviously. The Kraken had finished with the pirate ships, which now resembled abstract art installations made of twisted metal and regret. Now it was turning its attention to the stellar paradise, and Maya could feel the hull shuddering as massive tentacles wrapped around the ship. Why isn't it just crushing us? Executive Click-Clack asked, his mandibles chattering with terror. Maya watched the creature's movements on the external feeds. The tentacles were probing the ship, almost delicately, like it was looking for something specific. Because it's not trying to destroy the ship, she realized. It's searching for something. The alien passengers were busy composing what sounded like their last wills and testaments, but Maya was studying the Kraken's behavior patterns. The way it moved wasn't random or aggressive. It was methodical, purposeful. It's in pain, she said suddenly. What? Lord Shimmerbottom stopped his frantic polishing. Look at how it's moving. The tentacles keep spasming. The eye is dilated. And listen to that sound it's making. Maya enhanced the audio feed, and they could all hear a low, keening wail that seemed to echo from somewhere deep in the creature's massive body. You're anthropomorphizing a cosmic horror, Lady Glupina said shakily. No, I'm recognizing distress signals. I've heard that exact same frequency from malfunctioning hyperdrive cores. Maya's fingers flew over her diagnostic pad. Something's causing it pain, and it thinks whatever's hurting it is on this ship. Well, that's just wonderful, Executive Click-Clack chittered. We're trapped on a luxury cruise ship with an angry space monster that thinks we're carrying its migraine medication. Maya was already pulling up the ship's manifest, scanning through passenger cargo declarations. If I can figure out what it's looking for, maybe I can help it find the thing and convince it to stop using our hull as a stress ball. Help it? Lord Shimmerbottom's crystalline form flickered with disbelief. It's an apex predator from the void between dimensions. Yeah, and I'm a maintenance worker from Cleveland. We're all just trying to get through our day without everything falling apart. Maya had always prided herself on being able to find things that didn't want to be found. Lost socks, missing screws. The dignity she'd misplaced somewhere around her third consecutive 18-hour shift. But searching a luxury cruise ship for something that was driving a cosmic horror insane while tentacles the size of subway trains periodically smacked against the windows was definitely a new career challenge. Could everyone please stop screaming for 5 minutes? Maya called out as she crawled through a maintenance shaft. I'm trying to concentrate. Below her, she could hear Lady Glupina, having what sounded like a complete existential breakdown. We're all going to be digested by a space monster. My therapist never prepared me for this. Maybe because it's not a normal life experience, Maya muttered, scanning with her handheld detector for anything that might be broadcasting psychic energy. The Kraken had been systematically working its way through the ship's exterior for the last hour, and Maya was starting to understand its search pattern. It was focusing on the luxury passenger decks, specifically the areas where the high-paying customers stored their personal cargo. Of course, she said to herself. Rich people and their illegal souvenirs. Maya dropped down into the main corridor just as Executive Click-Clack came skittering around the corner, his carapace gleaming with nervous sweat. Human Maya. The creature has breached the observation deck. It's looking directly into the ship. Maya pulled up the feed on her pad, and sure enough, one enormous golden eye was pressed against the reinforced transparent aluminum of the observation deck, that's studying the interior with unsettling intelligence. It's definitely looking for something specific, Maya confirmed. And I think I know what. She'd found it in Lord Shimmerbottom's cargo manifest, buried under 17 layers of diplomatic documentation and customs exemptions. Crystalline artifacts of historical significance from the void reaches. Maya made her way to Lord Shimmerbottom's suite, where she found the Vortak diplomat frantically stuffing glittering objects into a containment case. Going somewhere? Maya asked. Lord Shimmerbottom's crystalline body flashed through about 6 different colors before settling on guilty orange. I was merely securing valuable cultural artifacts from potential damage. Cultural artifacts. Maya looked at the case, which was humming with barely contained psychic energy. From the void reaches, where Void Krakens come from. The origin of these items is irrelevant to their cultural value. Lord Glitter, Maya said patiently, that thing out there isn't trying to destroy the ship. It's trying to get to whatever's in that case, and judging by the psychic resonance readings I'm getting, I'm guessing those aren't exactly museum pieces. The ship shuddered as another tentacle smacked against the hull, and Lord Shimmerbottom's color shifted to panicked yellow. They're perfectly legal, he protested. I have all the proper documentation. Documentation for what exactly? Crystallized Void Kraken neural tissue, he admitted in a very small voice. Maya stared at him. You're smuggling pieces of that thing's brain? They're incredibly valuable for psychic enhancement. The Vortak medical establishment pays enormous sums for genuine Kraken neural crystals. So you're basically carrying around bits of its family members? Lord Shimmerbottom's color shifted to defensive purple. They were already deceased when I acquired them. Deceased or murdered by idiots like you. Maya could feel her temper rising, which was never a good sign. Let me guess. The crystals are still psychically active, broadcasting pain signals across dimensional barriers, and every Kraken in the void can hear them screaming. That's a very dramatic interpretation of a simple commercial transaction. Maya looked at her pad, where the Kraken's distress calls were getting stronger and more desperate. It's not trying to hurt us. It's trying to help its dead. And you've been carrying around their tortured remains like party favors. The ship lurched suddenly, and Maya realized the Kraken had found a way inside. She could hear metal tearing and passengers screaming as tentacles pushed through the outer hull. Congratulations, Lord Glitter, Maya said grimly. You've managed to piss off something that could crack planets in half. And guess who gets to clean up your mess? Surely the ship's security forces can handle this situation? Maya looked at him with the kind of withering contempt usually reserved for people who put pineapple on pizza. Security forces? We're a luxury cruise ship, not a military vessel. Our biggest weapon is the dessert cart. The lights flickered as another section of hull gave way, and Maya could hear the Kraken's keening wail getting closer. Here's what's going to happen, Maya said, grabbing the containment case. I'm going to return these crystals to their rightful owner. And you're going to stay here and try not to get anyone else killed with your stupidity. You can't just take my property. Watch me. Maya headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Lord Glitter? Next time you want to smuggle tortured alien remains across the galaxy, maybe don't do it on a ship where the maintenance worker actually gives a damn about keeping people alive. Maya had faced a lot of impossible situations in her career, fixing life support systems during meteor showers, rewiring hyperdrive cores while they were actively exploding, explaining to passengers why the artificial gravity sometimes hiccuped and made everyone briefly weightless during dinner service. But launching herself directly at a cosmic horror using the ship's garbage disposal system was definitely going to top her list of terrible ideas that somehow made sense. "This is insane," Lady Glupina said, watching Maya modify a waste disposal pod in the ship's service bay. "You're going to get yourself killed." "Probably," Maya agreed, welding an extra thruster to the side of what was essentially a flying trash can. "But staying here and waiting for the Kraken to tear the ship apart looking for these crystals isn't exactly a winning strategy either." Executive Click-Clack was pacing frantically, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "There has to be a better solution. What about diplomacy? What about surrender? You want to negotiate with a grief-stricken apex predator that's bigger than most space stations?" Maya tested the pod's steering controls. "Be my guest. I'll wait here while you go explain the concept of interstellar law to something that probably considers planets a light snack." Lord Shimmerbottom had been unusually quiet since Maya had confiscated his neural crystal collection. Now he spoke up in a voice that managed to sound both ashamed and defensive. "Perhaps if we simply jettisoned the crystals into space, the creature would retrieve them and leave us alone." Maya looked at him with the expression usually reserved for people who suggested fixing complex mechanical problems with a bigger hammer. "Sure, let's just throw the tortured remains of its species into the vacuum of space. I'm sure it'll appreciate the gesture." She shook her head. "These crystals need to be properly returned. That means getting close enough to hand them over personally." "That's suicide," Lady Glupina protested. "That's customer service," Maya corrected. "Sometimes they're the same thing." She sealed herself into the modified waste disposal pod, which she'd named the Regret in honor of all the life choices that had led to this moment. The containment case with the neural crystals was secured to her chest harness, still humming with psychic energy. Maya activated her suit's communication system and began recording what would probably be her final message. "Okay, so if you're listening to this, it means I either successfully convinced a cosmic horror to stop demolishing our ship, or I've been digested by something that probably doesn't even have taste buds. Either way, I want it on record that this whole situation could have been avoided if rich people could just travel without smuggling illegal alien artifacts." She checked the pod's trajectory calculations one more time. The Kraken's head was approximately 200 meters away, which in space terms was basically point-blank range. To Lady Glupina, I leave my coffee maker. It's the only thing on this ship that works consistently. To Executive Click-Clack, I leave my toolkit. Try not to use the plasma cutter as a letter opener. And to Lord Shimmerbottom, I leave a suggestion that you maybe consider how your shopping habits affect other species. Maya powered up the pod's engines and felt the familiar vibration of barely controlled mechanical systems held together by optimism and spare parts. "Oh, and if I don't make it back, someone please update my personnel file." I wanted to read Maya Rodriguez, Space Kraken Whisperer. I've earned it. Through the pod's tiny viewport, she could see the alien passengers watching from the observation deck. Lady Glupina appeared to be crying, which in Blobarians involved a lot of color changing and melodramatic wobbling. Executive Click-Clack was frantically taking notes, probably already composing a report about human irrationality. Lord Shimmerbottom was just staring, his crystalline form dim with what might have been guilt. "Launch in 3, 2, 1, Maya muttered, and hit the activation switch. The Regret shot out of the disposal chute like a bullet fired by someone who'd had way too much coffee and not nearly enough sleep. Maya's last coherent thought before the G-forces kicked in was that she really should have asked for hazard pay. The pod spun end over end through space, and Maya got a dizzying view of the Kraken's massive form. Up close, it was even more terrifying and magnificent than she'd expected. The tentacles weren't just appendages, they were covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living art. The crystalline spikes weren't weapons, they were sensory organs, each one glowing with bioluminescent patterns that probably conveyed meaning she couldn't begin to understand. And the eye. The enormous golden eye that was currently tracking her pod's erratic trajectory, with what she hoped was curiosity rather than hunger. "Okay, big guy," Maya said, fighting the urge to throw up inside her helmet. "Let's see if we can work this out like civilized beings. Even if only one of us is technically civilized." Maya had always been good at improvising. It came with the territory when you spent your career fixing things that weren't supposed to break in ways they weren't supposed to break. But improvising a peaceful first contact with a cosmic horror while hurtling through space in a garbage pod was definitely stretching her skill set. The Regrets guidance system, which had been optimistically designed for waste disposal rather than precision navigation, was doing its best to keep her on course toward the Kraken's head. Maya compensated for the pod's tendency to spin counterclockwise by manually adjusting the thruster controls, a process that required equal parts engineering knowledge and pure stubbornness. "Come on, you piece of junk," she muttered, wrestling with the controls as a tentacle the size of a subway train swept past her viewport. "Don't fail me now." The Kraken seemed to realize that this particular piece of debris was behaving differently than the usual space junk. The massive eye rotated to focus on Maya's pod, and she could feel the weight of its attention like a physical presence. "Okay, step 1 accomplished," Maya said to herself. "I have its attention. Step 2 is not getting swatted like a particularly annoying fly." A tentacle moved toward her pod, and Maya had a brief moment to appreciate just how beautiful the creature was up close. The crystalline spikes weren't just functional. They formed complex geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with their own internal light. Each spike was roughly the size of her entire pod, which put her situation into helpful perspective. The tentacle approached carefully, almost delicately, and Maya realized the Kraken was trying not to damage her. It was curious, not aggressive. "That's right, big guy," Maya said, guiding her pod closer to the creature's head. "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to help." Maya activated her suit's external speakers and began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. She didn't know what language the Kraken might understand, but she figured universal concepts might get through. "I have something that belongs to you," she said, patting the containment case. "Something that was taken from your people. I want to return it." The Kraken's eye fixed on the case, and Maya felt a sudden pressure in her mind. Not painful, exactly, but overwhelming. Images flashed through her consciousness, vast spaces between dimensions, creatures of living crystal swimming through hyperspace, and the agonized screams of the neural fragments Lord Shimmer Bottom had been carrying. "Yeah, I know," Maya said, tears streaming down her face inside her helmet. "They hurt your family, but I can make it stop." She maneuvered the pod until she was directly in front of the Kraken's head, close enough to see individual scales that were each larger than her apartment back on Earth. The creature held perfectly still, as if it understood that one wrong move would crush her instantly. Maya opened the pod's emergency airlock and stepped out into space, tethered to the pod by a safety line and protected only by her maintenance suit and a serious lack of self-preservation instincts. "This is probably the stupidest thing I've ever done," she said, drifting toward the Kraken's head with the containment case in her hands. "And I once tried to fix a quantum flux regulator with a sonic screwdriver." The Kraken's eye tracked her movement, and Maya could feel waves of emotion washing over her through their psychic connection. Grief, pain, hope. She found what she was looking for near the base of one of the creature's cranial ridges, a series of small, perfectly circular depressions in the living crystal. Neural crystal sockets, where the fragments Lord Shimmer Bottom had stolen originally belonged. "Okay," Maya said, opening the containment case and feeling the psychic screaming intensify. "This is going to hurt, but it's the good kind of hurt, like getting a splinter removed." She began the delicate process of returning the neural fragments to their original locations. Each crystal had to be precisely aligned and carefully inserted, like performing surgery on a patient the size of a moon. The Kraken shuddered with each replacement, its massive body going rigid with what Maya hoped was relief rather than death throes. The psychic screaming gradually changed tone, becoming something that sounded almost like singing. When she placed the last crystal fragment, the largest and most damaged piece, into its socket, Maya felt a wave of gratitude so powerful it nearly knocked her unconscious. The Kraken's eye closed for a moment, and when it opened again, the pain was gone. Maya had done it. One human maintenance worker with a toolkit and a bad attitude had successfully performed psychic surgery on a cosmic horror. "There you go, big guy," she said, drifting back toward her pod. "Good as new." "Well, mostly." The Kraken carefully extended one tentacle, and Maya felt herself being gently lifted. For a terrifying moment she thought she was about to become a snack, but instead the creature carried her back toward the stellar paradise with surprising gentleness. As they approached the ship, Maya could see the alien passengers pressed against the observation deck windows, but staring in disbelief at the sight of their maintenance worker, being personally delivered by the galaxy's most feared apex predator. "I really need to ask for a raise," Maya said. Maya had expected a lot of things when she returned to the stellar paradise. Tearful reunions, grateful passengers, maybe even a small bonus in her next paycheck. What she hadn't expected was to find Lady Glupina composing an epic poem about her heroic sacrifice, that Executive Click-Clack frantically updating his corporate risk assessment protocols to include cosmic horror management, and Lord Shimmerbottom attempting to polish himself into complete invisibility out of shame. "Maya," Lady Glupina oozed over as the airlock cycled open. "You magnificent, brave, wonderfully insane human. You've saved us all." "I fixed a maintenance problem," Maya corrected, stepping out of her suit and immediately heading for the coffee machine. The problem was that some idiot was carrying around stolen body parts and attracting cosmic horrors. "I returned the stolen goods." "Problem solved." "You faced down a Void Kraken." Executive Click-Clack chittered excitedly. "Single-handedly. With nothing but primitive human tools and apparent complete disregard for personal safety." Maya poured herself a cup of coffee that could probably strip paint and took a long, grateful sip. "I had a conversation with a distressed citizen and helped them recover stolen property. It's called customer service." Through the observation deck windows, they could see the Kraken slowly moving away from the ship. Before it disappeared back into hyperspace, it performed what could only be described as a farewell bow, dipping its massive head in Maya's direction. "It's acknowledging you as an equal," Lord Shimmerbottom said quietly. He'd managed to dim his crystalline form to a barely perceptible glimmer. Void Krakens only show respect to beings they consider worthy of it. "Great," Maya said. "I've been approved by a cosmic horror. That's definitely going on my dating profile." The ship's communication array crackled to life as news of the encounter spread through the galactic networks. Reporters from 17 different species wanted interviews. Scientists wanted to study her unprecedented interspecies communication techniques. Military officials wanted to know if humans could be trained to negotiate with other cosmic horrors. "This is incredible," Lady Glupina exclaimed, monitoring the news feeds. "They're calling you the human who tamed the void. The maintenance worker miracle. The apex predator whisperer. They're calling me a lot of things I can't repeat in polite company too," Maya noted, scrolling through some of the more colorful responses. "Apparently there's a whole faction that thinks I should be studied by xenobiologists." "You've become a legend," Executive Click-Clack announced. "The galactic stock market is already responding to news of successful human Kraken diplomacy. My corporate overlords are demanding I secure exclusive negotiation rights." Maya looked at the insectoid executive with the expression she usually reserved for broken equipment that had the audacity to malfunction during her coffee break. "Let me be very clear about something," she said. "I am not going to become the galaxy's official cosmic horror negotiator. I am not interested in fame, fortune, or having my DNA samples distributed to research facilities. I am a maintenance worker. I fix things when they break. And then I go back to drinking coffee and wondering why allegedly advanced civilizations can't figure out how to operate a beverage synthesizer." "But surely you realize the implications of what you've accomplished," Lord Shimmerbottom said, his color slowly returning to normal now that the immediate crisis was over. You've proven that humans can communicate with species that other civilizations have considered utterly alien and incomprehensible. I've proven that if you steal someone's family members, they get upset about it, Maya corrected. This isn't some mystical interspecies breakthrough. It's basic empathy and customer service skills. She finished her coffee and started walking toward the maintenance bay, where 17 different systems were probably failing while she'd been out playing space therapist. Where are you going? Lady Glupina called after her. Back to work. Lord Glitter's beverage synthesizer is still broken. Your massage chair still squeaks, and somebody needs to repair the hull damage from our cosmic horror encounter. You know, routine maintenance stuff. As Maya disappeared into the service corridors, she could hear the alien passengers discussing her with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. They genuinely couldn't understand why someone who had just become the most famous human in galactic history wanted to go back to fixing plumbing problems. Maya didn't bother explaining. They wouldn't understand that some people found satisfaction in solving problems that stayed solved and fixing things that actually needed fixing. Fame was just another kind of breakdown waiting to happen. Besides, she had souvenirs to hide. Later that night, after the news crews had finally stopped calling and the passengers had settled into their usual routines of complaining about perfectly normal starship operations, Maya sat in her quarters examining the small neural crystal fragment she'd kept from Lord Shimmerbottom's collection. It wasn't psychically active anymore. The Kraken had somehow severed its connection to the main neural network before departing. But it still glowed with a soft, warm light, and occasionally Maya thought she could feel traces of vast, alien contentment. "You're welcome," she said to the crystal, then tucked it into her toolkit next to the sonic screwdriver she wasn't supposed to have and the universal translator she'd borrowed from supplies 3 years ago. Tomorrow there would be more systems to repair, more passengers to accommodate, and probably more impossible problems that somehow became her responsibility. But tonight, Maya Rodriguez, maintenance worker and accidental cosmic horror therapist, was content to drink her coffee and watch the stars go by. After all, someone had to keep the universe running. And apparently that someone was her.